Hi guys, and welcome back to the Once You're In podcast. We believe this is episode number 67. We don't have a special guest this week, and we're probably, although we did say last week we were going to do 2 episodes, we didn't. So apologies for that. But we're probably going to do alternating episodes of the OG Oye, which is just me and Reece, and then the guest episode of Oye.
Yeah.
You
Fair
good?
enough. What do you mean, am I good?
You good? You all right? Life all okay?
I feel better. That's the reason why we bottled the 2 podcasts. I was under the weather, been ill. I actually do think my face looks a bit skinnier, which is a surprise. So for the visual listeners, look at me. I'm looking a little bit malnourished.
Shredded.
Yeah, I'm shredded now. I'm peeled. My back's really lean. No, I've dropped 2.5 kilos. I dropped weight again yesterday, which is not great. But I ate my normal food. I've been slightly under the weather the last week. The last time I was ill was legitimately about a year ago. It was 10 days after prep, so it was the 26th of October last year. So it's been literally a year since I was last ill. And last Thursday, I managed to go through the whole podcast. I didn't really mention too much, but I could tell my head was spinning. By the end of it, I was counting down. I was like, right, please, can we finish this? Please, can we finish this? But I was just soldiering on. And then literally, I lied down. I stripped off. I lied down in my bed.
You doing me? Oh, mate, you don't lie on the bed. It's kitchen floor.
Yeah, no. I was like dripping in sweat.
Right.
I was dripping in sweat, and I was like, right, I'm just gonna lie down in bed naked. So I just lied down face first, and I was like, right, I FaceTimed Sanaya, and I was like, because no one was here, it's just me, and I was like, I feel awful. I don't know what to do. And when I was talking, my throat was getting more like, you can tell like your throat starts to feel a bit meh.
You're gonna be sick.
You start to really like salivate, and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. So I went to the toilet, and because I was on FaceTime to Sanaya, I'm like walking through my house naked on FaceTime. And I'm like leaning over the toilet, but because I'm talking, I can't like concentrate on being sick. So I ended the call, was then like I threw up like water. It was like liquid. And I was like, right, something, because it wasn't sick. And I was like, right, something's a bit off. So I went back to like lie down, and I lied down in bed for like 45 minutes. And I was like, right, I need to take my dog for a walk. That's literally the only thing I'm going to get the dog taken for a walk. I haven't ate for about 4 hours at this point because my stomach was awful. And I was walking, and Bear, my dog, was on the lead. And I just started throwing up while I was walking. I was walking back, and I was like throwing up. And Bear was just looking up at me like, Reece, mate, what the fuck are you doing? Because I was just walking, just throwing up sick. And I was like, well, I'm not stopping. So I just carried. So if you had seen me, I was walking down the middle of my road, literally throwing up. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? So, and it happened 4 times in like bursts where I just couldn't stop. And I was like, okay, something's definitely a little bit up. Like something's a bit not all there. So I managed to get back. I felt a bit better after throwing up. And then since then, like over the weekend, my head was just like, not the best. I still trained because I looked at it and thought my body will tell me if I can't train. So I did like an intentional kind of devolume / time management session. So I kind of just did the compounds and isolations. I just got a bit of a pump. And fortunately, training was sound. But my appetite's been horrendous. My ability to kind of, let's say, have like foods like cream of rice, whey, yogurt, which is literally like the bulk majority of my meals away from like my eggs and chicken and stuff like that, which is a bit annoying. So I've had to just substitute them out. And then also when you're ill, your body's not going to be holding on to fullness, minerals, stuff, so on and so forth. So yeah, a little bit down in body weight, but I feel good, feel a lot better today. Today's like the first day. I did my cardio, everything feels normal, and I feel pretty sound. So yeah, on the mend, all good. But my last week's been quite entertaining.
It was it was Kez's fault.
Yeah, I also should say that I shat myself as well at Sanaya's. I pooed myself.
You've not told Sanaya, have you? She's going to find out on the podcast.
No, I didn't tell her. So for the people listening, please don't send this bit to Sanaya. I slept around Sanaya's on Sunday and Monday, and we went to Alton Towers on Monday. And I think it was Monday night, and I woke up.
Scarefest just scared you so much.
Yeah, it scared me so much. So we already booked tickets to go to Alton Towers, and I was like, we got absolutely soaked. I'm surprised I didn't feel as bad like the following day because we were just drenched. And anyway, I woke up at like 3, and my stomach was like, oh god, this doesn't feel amazing. My stomach just felt a bit off. I went to the toilet, but no, like just went to the toilet, went for a wee, nothing else. Literally, I felt sound, but my stomach just felt a bit heavy. And then I woke up at like 4:30, and my bottom was like wet, like around, and I like tapped my cheek, and I was like, oh no. Oh, this is not great. Fortunately, I don't sleep on my back because if I was, the bed was gonna be fucked. I was having to wake Sanaya up saying, Sanaya, through the bed. So I did do that. But there definitely was some accident. So I went to the toilet, cleaned myself up, and I just laughed. I was like, it is what it is. I then went back to bed,
It is
and
what it
after about
is.
15
Happens
minutes,
to the best of us.
yeah, it happened again. And so I'm going to the bathroom. Sanaya wakes up and she goes, Reece, is everything okay? I'm like, yep, fine. So I just
Yeah, no, nothing to see here.
need to go to the toilet. And then unfortunately, I woke up and I was fine. I woke up like actually at my normal time, and I was like, oh, I'm sound.
So
I'm not waiting.
you can't tell your girlfriend, but you can tell hundreds of people on a podcast.
Yeah, well, Sanaya's gonna find out. To be fair, I actually think I said I was like my stomach was a bit fucked last night, but I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
like.
not. I've shat myself in your bed twice.
Yeah, right.
Probably on you, potentially.
Yeah, I probably should have checked. Actually, I should have. I did, mate. I got the torch, and I was like, she's like, Reece, is everything okay? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, it's fine.
next to me, she's like, Reece, why have you got the torch? And like, you laugh. I'm like, just don't worry. I don't even know why it's on. Didn't even
Oh,
realize.
it's accident. Yeah, you know, your
Yeah.
torch randomly goes on in the night. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was that. So that was a highlight. But that's that. That's everything now. So yeah, how's your week been, mate?
my week's been good. I got a message last night from Miles. He wasn't very happy that last week. You know, when you asked me how my week was, I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sound." And I didn't say that we had Miles's show and Eden's show because Eden was there in the voice note last night. So this is to apologise, huh?
We don't mention that.
No, because Kez was waiting.
Yeah.
So when we have a guest episode, we probably shouldn't ask each other how each other's week's been because we're gonna miss stuff out and we're gonna offend people. So yeah, Miles is really upset with me, and Eden's even more upset. So yeah, not last weekend, the weekend before, we had the Natural Two Bros show. It was a lovely day.
How was it ran?
It was ran okay. It's just that I don't think, in my opinion, I think that they should stay as a untested fed because I don't think they're really that bothered. Like it's not for, and it could, I don't know, it could be the same for anyone, but for the UK AFBA shows, it's like a massive event. Every single show is like a big deal for them.
Yeah.
I feel like for the Natural Two Bro show, it's like, oh, it's just another thing. It's just another way to get a bit more money, which is fine. It's a business at the end of the day. But WMBF, for example, it's a massive event for them, especially because they just do the one show. Yeah, it's like a big deal. Like, whereas I feel like it was just like a bit of a small show, wasn't too busy. It was also at the end of the season though, so it's part of it. But no, it was still good. It was obviously nice to get everyone together. It was nice to go out for food afterwards. But yeah, the show itself was just a bit like, almost just felt like a bit like, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. It's like a bit of like a meh kind of show. I didn't see the because they have the men's classes in the morning, don't they? And they have the women's classes later on, and you have to have a separate ticket, of course. So I didn't have a ticket for the women's ones, but it did look busier. So I imagine that was maybe a little bit better, just like in terms of like atmosphere and everything. But it was still good. So there you go, Miles and Eden. There's your little shout out. They do want to come on the podcast as well, like we said. I said if we were to get them on
as a power couple.
As a power couple, yeah, we'll get them on and we can discuss how to be such a power couple throughout prep.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, we could do that with you and Sanaya, but you weren't a fucking power couple, mate.
I'll take some notes. I'll be like, oh, okay, so you actually spoke? Okay, what? Really? I just told Sanaya to piss off and just like blame Trent. It was because he's natty. That's why.
That's why.
When you're on like 3 grams of Trent, it's hard to speak to anybody.
You can't be personable.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
This week, though, what have we done this week? Have I done anything this week?
Mate, you posted a little clip of your back yesterday and your adductors were MIA.
Hey, we weren't looking at my adductors, were we?
Yeah,
but those was for.
Yeah, I know, mate. But like the problem is, imagine being a judge, being lower down, just looking up and going, "That looks alright."
You can probably see my sack. You can see my sack from the back because I got no adductors.
Hey, like honestly, the like inside of your leg is so hollow. Like it wouldn't surprise me if you could see just straight through you.
Yeah, it actually goes. My adductors are that bad that my legs actually cave in.
Okay,
it's like they do the opposite.
Yeah, so they don't adduct; they like abduct. So
and what's weird as well? What is weird as well is that I don't have a vastus lateralis, so my legs they're just non-existent because they cave in from the center and they cave in from the outside. It's like medially and laterally, I've got no legs.
Okay.
Luckily, centrally, I've got a little bit.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. You've got a little bit in the middle, but just no girth. Like there's not really anything
To be fair, saying that, my rec fem is not very good.
mate.
The only part of my quad that is okay is my VMO.
Yeah, that's it. And your hamstrings, I mean, yeah.
There's nothing there.
I mean, glutes are like pretty all right. Like they're not amazing, but they're not bad.
Whole
Like,
load is awful. I need to do physique, like we spoke about before.
Yeah.
But no, you actually complimented me the other day.
Mate, yeah, I said I was like post session. To be fair, the urine was a bit of a cheat code, like Ultraflex.
You still
So
look
that, and the camera was low down. The camera was low down. So like I think if anything, that's the one time anybody's legs are gonna look okay. But yeah, no, mate, your legs aren't actually your quads weren't looking that bad in those photos. And we trained at the Mecca on Tuesday. But yeah, I think other than that, like we've kind of just done the same. The hashtag Mecca. We've kind of done the same sort of stuff. Like in the last week, if you think about it, we had peak video on Friday for you. Saturday, you put the RDL back in. You got an amazing 180 kilo set.
180 for 3.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, yeah, the RDL's back in. I introduced that the week that I trained at Braywick Leisure Centre because that's where the two bro shows are. So I trained there and I implemented it, and it felt okay. My hips actually feeling better. Huh?
Did you actually train at the gym that the leisure centre's at?
I told you that. Do you not follow me, mate?
No, not really. I just thought you trained at leisure centre, not the actual leisure centre that the show was at.
Trained there, went upstairs and had a good session. It's actually a decent session.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I did the RDL then, did it again this week. It felt okay. I'm still not very good at it. So like not even in terms of loading, just in terms of like the actual patterning of the exercise. But I did do a post on it. That's why I'm doing it, because I'm not very good at it. I need to get better at it. And even though like I'm not saying I was ever good at deadlifting. Like I got decent at deadlifting and my stiff leg was pretty good, like loading wise and execution wise and how it felt. But with the RDL, like obviously you've got to really nail the eccentric control. Whereas if you're doing a deadlift with a dead stop, like we were both we weren't dropping the eccentric completely, but we weren't controlling the eccentric very well.
Yeah, it was a negative eccentric, like blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really too much of an eccentric.
It was a -1 on the tempo.
Yeah, -1 tempo. Like literally just throw it down. Like
throw
the bar down. Yeah, we were technically trying to kind of like eccentrically do everything other than challenge ourselves. We were trying to concentrically challenge ourselves on the eccentric by throwing it down and playing a bit of basketball.
The thing is, though,
that's what we were doing.
Like they weren't bad. Like obviously we're taking the piss, but when you've had a movement in for that long, and obviously when you're running it up, like there's going to be a certain point where like it does sacrifice a little bit, and that's why obviously we need to reset it.
Finn, you're an online coach. Is form not supposed to stay immaculate from week
all
1
the time? Yeah, mate, can you see this bit of light on my face?
Yeah, I can see, mate. Blind yourself. But I find that disgraceful. Like every single client that's listening, just sack Finn now, because for him to say that form's going to get
exactly what I say to clients. That's
no,
why I tell them to film their training and keep sending it, because it might be good
for standardization. But I do think, I think like what you said there, having a hip hinge in it, the eccentric gets slightly lesser in time as you're building the load up. I don't think that's bad. Like it's not the end of the world. If anything, I think it's quite normal.
It's just why you have to keep assessing it, and that's why, like, I had a client, not this week, maybe last week. He messaged me and he was like, "Oh, mate, I'm a little bit like." It's a bit frustrating with the training feedback, because like one week it's really good, or one session it's really good, then the next session it's not as good. And I say, mate, that's part of the process. That's the whole point of continuing to film your training. I say I film pretty much every set, or at least every single exercise really that I do. I don't post every single thing on social media so that I can watch it back. Like we filmed all 3 sets of our seated row yesterday. Like that's not because we're posting all 3 sets. That's so we can look back at it. I posted like 2 reps on my story.
We should have seen the fucking buddy set we did.
There were 2 buddy to post. That's why. But it's part of it. That's the whole point, is so that you can keep assessing it. And if your training is, there's no such thing as perfect, but let's say your training is quote unquote perfect, I'd imagine that you're probably not challenging yourself enough. So it's finding that balance. There's going to be a line where you went over that line from focusing entirely on the form and pushing yourself maybe that little bit too far, where the last couple of reps are a little bit sloppy, in which case, depending on the exercise, that's probably the area, right, next week, let's focus on that. Let's focus on staying a bit calmer on those last couple of reps here or there. Like, there's always going to be something to work on in terms of your training. And that's the whole point of it. That's what's fun about training, is that it's not the same. It's never, we as much as we do the same sessions week in, week out, no two sessions are ever the exact same. You know what I mean? There's always something to be a bit better at, or there's a number to aim for, or there's something to beat from last time, or like, it's never just, oh yeah, the exact same session again, and it was the exact same. Like, there's always something different. Like, I think people almost neglect that, and they think it should be the exact same. Like, every single session should be the exact same. It's like, yeah, you've got a program to follow and you want to progress it, but every single week we'll have something and we'll go, right, oh, what load are you going for on the back off? Or, oh, I'm going to take a higher rep, or this wasn't as good last week, so I'm going to work on that. Like, training would be a bit boring if there wasn't always something to get better at.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think that's a good point, to be fair. I think that's a very good point. And I think that's kind of how as you mentioned, that's the seek of wanting to be better and wanting to do more. And I think a lot of people are, I'm not going to say like narrow-sighted or short-sighted, but I think they don't focus on those sort of intricacies. And it is just like, every single time you're in the gym is a chance to get a little bit better, whether that's a rep, a bit of load, a little bit of execution. But it should always be that, like, I remember, and I bet you were in a similar position, when we were like probably 18, 19, 20, I bet we probably thought, oh yeah, our training's fucking sound. We're good at what we do. And like, you're in a pure gym, you're pressing the 50s and you're like, I'm strong. You realize, okay, I'm not that strong. There's a lot of people that are strong.
Probably not very good. You're probably taking loads of forced reps. Like, I think as well, like, especially with clients, obviously you get them to send their training videos and they almost expect everything to be perfect after the first week or 2 weeks. And it's like, I always say to people, I have clients that I've coached for years that still send training clips. They don't have to send everything, but they'll send a few clips across a week or 1 or 2 a session. And there's still always work. It's not like, yeah, amazing. It's like, okay, yeah, great set. Let's go for this next time. Or this could have been a little bit better, or that could have been a little bit better. But again, like, that's the whole point of it. We'll be doing the same thing in another 5 years. Like, it's not like all of a sudden you just have this certain point where everything that you do in the gym is perfect. But yeah, like, you realize it more so. Like you say, when I used to train at Hollywell, I never really thought, oh, maybe I need to improve this set or improve my form. It was just, I need to beat these numbers. But that wasn't, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're progressing. Get a better
like, I need to get, I need to have less rest time. I need to do this. I need to have, it's just fucking shit. Like I said to you, what did I say to you last week? Do you remember? I went for 4 plates on the high incline, the medium incline Smith on Wednesday. And I was like, I just need to stop being a bit of a pussy when it comes to some sets on like presses. I was like, I'm always like, I've been a little bit too, I'm going to stick between like an 8 to a 10 rep.
A bit comfortable with it.
Yeah. And I said to you, I was like, because you were like, what did you do last time? I was like 3.5 for 7 and I'm going for 4. So I'm going 10 kilos up per side. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know it's going to be like maybe a 2-repper, maybe a 3-repper, maybe a 4-repper. Like, it's going to be a low repper, but I feel good. Everything's firing.
There's a time and a place to do it. You're not going to run a 2-3-repper forever. You might have a few weeks where you're a little bit lower rep, and then when you revisit 3.5, you get it for 10. Like,
exactly. So like, and I think, like, as I said, I was like, I'm gonna stop being a pussy. And it wasn't where I was actually being a pussy going, oh, I'm gonna stay on this load, but I was like, I feel good. I've been on the same sort of load for a similar amount of time. Let me just see how it goes. And as a result, let's say yesterday, I got an additional forced rep on the top set, and I got 3 reps up on 3 plates from my previous. I think so. It's all right.
Like, that understanding comes over time, because, like, again, even a couple of years back, like, I wouldn't have ever thought like that. I'd have been like, right, this is my rep range. This is what weight I got last time. This is how many reps I got last time. I need to beat it. But that's not the only way that you can progress. Like, I'll always say to clients, like, look, depending on the session, depending on how the warm-ups are feeling, depending on how you're feeling, take a different rep range. Working a lower rep range, working a higher rep range. Like, there isn't a specific rep range that is going to be the most optimal. You could argue potentially a lower rep set. Yeah, but it's like
8 to 12 trophy range, bro.
Even then, like, if you take a 5 rep at times, or you take a 15 rep at times, like, again, it depends on how the session is, depends on numerous different things and how it's feeling. But you almost have to learn and get to the point where you understand that, because there is going to be a point where, especially even like with clients who have got a coach, if this is what my coach says, this is my rep range, this is what weight I've done. Now I need to stay in this rep range. I need to run all the way up to the rep range and then go heavier. Like I'll always say to clients when they start, I'll say like, right, the basic sort of rule of thumb is first and foremost, we need to nail your form. That's the most important thing. I couldn't care less what weight you're doing or anything else until we nail your form. Then we need to nail your effort. Again, I don't care what weight you're doing until you're actually training within a good sort of level of effort, close to failure. And then if they're ticked off and you're in the rep range that we've got set, just go heavier. Like every single week, aim to go heavier. And if you end up being under the rep range, don't stress.
Cool. No,
reset it a little bit, like next time, or have a couple of weeks under the rep range and then reset it and revisit your previous best on that weight or whatever. But I think people are so married to that sort of path of progression where it's like, I have to stay in a certain small rep range and beat the weight or beat the reps every single week, that it can get a little bit boring, a little bit stale, instead of just being like, how do I feel? And
yeah, I think it's as well, like I think it's, if anything, it kind of stems from people not understanding their bodies, as we said, and also like pretty poor coaching and not delivering on that kind of personal aspect of, if you feel good, go for it. Like the amount of times that like we'll probably have clients sign up and they'll say, like, we'll give them an 8 to 12 and they'll get week 1 8 and you'll go, or 9, you'll go, okay, cool, go heavy.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
Why would I get to the top of rep range?
Yeah, 12. It's like, well, why do you need to get to 12? You might feel really, really shit that session. And actually, it's probably best to maybe take a 12 to 15 repper instead. Or likewise, you might feel fucking awesome. If you go below a rep range or you take a 5 kilo up the side, I'd rather you go for it. And also, what we say all the time, what's going to correlate what when you get to the top end of a rep range? You take a low progression, the load goes up.
Not like anything
the reps will probably come down.
Like,
could you have got away with that? Yeah, exactly. And I think it is that sense where like it's so easy. How many, like, we could probably make our introduction videos probably 5 minutes shorter if we were to say, right, work within a rep range, get wherever it falls, work it to the top end of the rep range.
That's the thing though, like,
because it means that you literally the whole process. You have to say nothing after that. You literally say, where is the rep range? Okay, cool. You know what to do.
That's the same with anything coaching. That's the same with people who just program deloads every 6 weeks you have a deload. It's like, you don't even know this person. Yeah. Like, they literally just started. You don't know what their lifestyle's like. You don't know how hard they train. You don't know how strong they are. How can you just determine you need a deload every 6 weeks? Or even, right, we're going to do this with volume every week. Or, you know, it's like, that's not coaching. And I'm not saying people do that, but I know, like, I don't know specific people that do that, but that would be an easy way of coaching. I could have 2 or 3 times as many clients as I do if my job was literally, right, here's your training program, here's your rep ranges, don't send me training videos, or you're allowed to send me 4 a week, as I've heard apparently before. You're only allowed to send me 4 videos a week. Like, what? Like, what are you doing then as your job?
Check-ins.
Check-ins can't be a voice note, have to be a text. Like, it's just like, or mate, people have forms for check-ins, don't they? They just have a form that you fill out and it's like 5 questions. But yeah, anyway, that's it. We don't need to rant about any of that, but yeah, it's not, in my opinion, that's not coaching. That's how can I make as much money as possible and be the most efficient as I can and still get some decent results. Like, yeah, sound, you will get decent results.
Yeah.
But you're always going to get decent results because there's always going to be people who work hard anyway and people who've got good genetics anyway. Like, but are you going to get the best out of each individual? Probably not. And are you going to actually build a relationship with that individual or learn about that individual? Probably not. But again, it's each to their own. It's a case of making your life easier. But
so there's that, and then there's the other.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, mate, it cut out. It's that, and then the other side of coach is just, what's the issue? Okay, just take more peds. Just up the dose, bro. Just
that's what you do.
Just, you know, add. Oh yeah, shit. Fuck, that's the reason why people sign up. You know, actually, no. To be fair, mate, I just do that, but then I also do both. I do the worst of each. I just say, right, go a bit heavier, bro. Like all my replies are just like whenever they send me through their form clips, it's like, yeah, sound, go heavier, bro. There's like
you don't watch them, you just go, yeah, sound. Yeah, it looks all right to me.
Do you remember when we were in the warehouse? We won't name names, and there was that guy who showed us what his coach told him to do, and his coach was like, yeah, sound, all good, mate. And there was like 7 in reserve.
Yeah,
and we both looked at it
like,
and we were like, mate, how is your coach saying? Like, it's an awful.
Yeah, but also it wasn't even that. It was that, but it was that he'd sent him like 10 videos, and he'd managed to get back to him within a minute, saying, yeah, all looks good. Like, how on earth have you watched 10 videos and assessed them? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, fair enough. I'm not expecting to
Yeah.
watch every single rep of every single set. Like, yeah, fair enough. He might skip through it a little bit if it looks good. He might go to the last couple of reps, but 10 videos or so, even if it was 5 videos, you're not getting back in a minute. Like, no chance. They're like, it's like a coach's thing of like, oh, response times. Like, yeah, but if your response time is rapid because your form assessment is shite, that's not a good thing. I'd rather my coach get back to me in a couple of hours or later on that day or the next day when they've actually had time to watch it and give me some real feedback than, oh, my coach gets back to me in a minute and gives me shit feedback. Oh, great.
I said to do a set with 7 reps in reserve, and I was like, took this all the way there, and he replied, "Awesome work, buddy."
Yeah, I'm sure he did, mate.
Fucking silly, but like, unfortunately, that's the way we're in. So, mate, we've probably offended loads of coaches that we're not even trying to attack.
That's what I mean, though. We're not like, this isn't us saying, oh, it's this person, or like, this is different stories you hear all the time. Like, it's not as if all this is about one person or anything like that. This is just about the industry. And it's not well, in my opinion, it's not the majority anyway. Like, we're not saying this like, oh, it's fucking everyone and we're the only ones that don't, not in the slightest. Like, there's loads of really, really good coaches out there that put a lot of time and effort into their clients and really care. But there's a lot of shit coaches out there as well. And it's a shame because it's like anything, they ruin it for everyone else, kind of. Not ruin it, but you know what I mean? Like, put a bad name on it.
Yeah, and I can guarantee there's probably people who have, like, let's say, maybe said, "Oh, I'm thinking of applying with this coach," and they've said, "Oh no, all coach. Like, I've worked with a few coaches; they're all bad." Like, there'll be some people who
how
put
often,
time in.
Yeah, 100%. But how often have you had clients go, mate, I've worked with 2-3 other coaches, and this is like next level compared? Or we've had people ask questions: is it okay for your coach not to get back to you for 3-4 days? Like, no. If you're asking that question, you know that it's not okay. I got that question on my questions box. I forgot to answer it, but like, we've spoke about that on the podcast.
You forgot to answer. You didn't get back to them, bro. You're a fucking shit coach. You didn't get
But I'm not their coach.
Oh, okay, makes sense. But if you were
That's the thing, though. I'm too busy getting back to my clients that I don't get back to the question boxes.
Yeah, makes sense. Right. Speaking of questions, mate, do you want to get into them?
Yeah, let's go. That was a good little segue.
Yeah, thought that. Do you have many?
I think we've got some from last week, haven't we?
Oh, God knows. I think I put up like no, because they're all with Quace, weren't they? So they're not going to be too Kess. Yeah, they're not going to be too, like, they're going to most likely be.
I did have some, right? You try and find yours, because I had some from last week that we didn't get to.
I got back to all of them, I'm pretty sure. So you go to the ones that are relevant to us from last week, if you.
I'm just letting it load, so you go first.
Okay, you just let it load. Okay, mate, this is a fantastic question. This is genuinely an elite question, and I've not decided. I'm not going to name who's asked, and this is not offensive to the 3 individuals named, but Shag, Marry, Kill, Meg Sylvester, Alex Small, and Kira Jaston, or however you say her name. So, Shag, Marry, Kill. I've already made my mind up on this. I already know.
It's not offensive to the 3, is it? Is it not offensive to the 3? No.
I don't think so. I don't know. Like,
has Josh Croggan asked the question by any chance?
Yes, Josh has asked. Josh was the one who asked the question. Oh, fantastic. Right.
What a great
guess. So do you want to hear my answer?
I'm gonna marry Meg. Simple as that. Yep. That's an easy one.
Easy, yeah. Meg, 100%.
I don't know the other 2 enough. I don't know them at all. I don't know one to kill them. That's not very nice, is it?
Okay. Can I go then? So I'm going to kill Alex because her training really is not amazing, unfortunately. Like, from what I've seen her do a lot of buddies and a fair few kind of questionable sets.
Is that worth killing someone?
No. But then Kira, mate, she's so strong. I want her to fuck me, so she can fuck me. So Kira can fuck me because, mate, she can deadlift pretty much the same weight or more than me. She's fucking,
she is very strong, to be fair.
She's probably more like masculine than me. Like, not in a bad way. I just mean that in a way she can have a way with me. And then
I'm not very masculine.
Yeah, exactly. So she can do me, and then, like I said, Alex is.
That's not the question.
What do you mean?
You've got to shag them.
No, I want to. No, but there's shag. Like, shag who? I'll get shagged. We'll do something. And Kira. I
feel like there's got to be a line on this podcast. I feel like sometimes we cross the line where we've been very professional up until this point, apart from you talking about shitting yourself. And then we've
What,
got
you reckon we've crossed the line here?
I don't know. I feel like there is a line where we should have a podcast. Maybe we should have a separate podcast where
What? You mean? We only allow it to like the exclusive listeners. You have to pay
yeah,
us.
yeah, you
And
have
you
to
have to
pay.
be like,
Once
right,
you're in over the line, something like that, where we cross the line with these kind of questions.
uncensored.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm going to marry Meg.
Okay.
Sorry to Cuba.
You don't want to marry or kill the others.
I'll do. What did you say?
Marry Meg, shag or get shagged by Kira, and then kill Alex.
Okay, yeah, I'll do the same. Or I'll do the same. Even though I don't know, I don't know them enough to say that I'm going to kill them.
Okay, thanks for the question, Josh.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thanks for the question, Josh. Sorry, if any of those are listening. I don't think they're going to listen to the podcast.
I don't. There's nothing personal. We didn't even ask the question, so that's part of it. We just answered. That's what we do as podcast hosts.
Yeah, you got to. Otherwise, you get told that we're shit podcast hosts.
Yeah, exactly. Are you still looking? Jesus Christ!
No, I've got them up, but I just can't remember which ones we answered. Butcher's Wet Dream, worst fan base in the Prem, and then he put in brackets. Correct answer is United fans.
No,
I think maybe Kez is a United fan, isn't
he? Yeah, I don't think United have the worst fans. I do think there's a bit of an ego, but there should be. You guys were on top for so long. I think Arsenal fans this season have kind of shown like they think they're a lot better than they are. But I like Arsenal. I like Arsenal as a team. I've always liked Arsenal. Worst fans.
I think Chelsea, I think,
yeah, maybe,
or even City. It's got to be City.
Do you reckon? But I think the legit City fans wicked. But Josh Jenkins, for example, Josh supports Cardiff and City, and he's never watched a City game before 2011 or whatever. Yeah. It's like, well, you're really a City fan? And then when they win the league, he'll message me and gloat, and it's like, mate,
I feel like Chelsea is similar though. I feel like Chelsea fans, when Abramovich took over and when they started winning leagues and winning, being a big team, they got a massive fan base. But who am I to speak? I only support Man United because they were good when I was young. You only support Liverpool because they were good when you were young.
No, they weren't that good.
They weren't very good.
No, they weren't. So yeah, part of it. We've only really been good now. We had a few streaks in the early 2000s.
We got some strange questions from Argon. Right, let's quickly rattle through these before we go into the next bit. So, why do you think you are more competitive in natural being? So again, this could have been.
He said, "Why is Finn convinced he won't be competitive if as assisted?" Mate, Argon wants you to jump in.
I'm not convinced. I know that I'd be decent enhanced, but the risk versus reward, cost versus benefit analysis, is not worth it.
Mate, your hair would be gone.
Yeah. I'm not biting it. My hair looks.
A little bit of Primo Master on. Jesus Christ, you'd be bold. You'd be like your dad. You'd be bold.
I think everybody. It's almost like nowadays. The question is more so why aren't you jumping on gear? Just because that I enjoy training and I enjoy improving my physique and I enjoy the sport of bodybuilding, doesn't mean I have to go down that route. If I was an absolute genetic freak, then yeah, I probably would, because I'd be able to make a lot more money from it and my career would be solely based around it. But I don't need to go down that route. And I'm not saying I wouldn't be competitive. I'm sure I'd be pretty good, because I'd be pretty good naturally. And I know that in terms of work ethic and knowledge, everything like that, I'd be sound. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be just another guy that's jumped on gear to look a bit bigger in the gym or be a bit stronger. I'd be doing it for the right reasons. But why do I need to do that? People message me why are you not doing it? Or maybe you should. I'm like, why? You know what I mean? It's I think
changes. Literally nothing.
Mate, the thing is though, everybody, at least let's say not everybody, majority of people that want to jump on gear want to do it mainly due to maybe not being that confident, not being happy with how they look, maybe from an ego perspective, they want to be the biggest guy in their gym, they want to be the strongest guy in their gym. I'm not that arsed about that. If I was asked about being the biggest and strongest guy in the gym, then I would train in a leisure center or I'd jump on gear and be I'm going to do it for this. I'm bothered about feeling good, training, and because I enjoy training and being in a good routine and progressing.
Yeah.
I can still do that. You know what I mean? It's not as if I'm not progressing now. Yeah, I'm not progressing at the rate that I would be, but that's a cost that I'm willing to pay for not jumping on gear.
Yeah. I think it's a good thought process, man. And you think long term, like not short term, you know, where a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm doing this. Because a lot of people be like, well, I'm making money in the fitness industry. Surely that would fund, you know,
Yeah,
not
I'm
fund.
making exactly, but I'd also say I'm making money in the fitness industry. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
like I'm doing it without being on gear. You don't have to. It's not like, oh, if you want to be making money as a coach or if you want to make money as a bodybuilder, you have to jump on gear. No, you don't. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to make loads of money from being a natural bodybuilder in competitive bodybuilding. You're not. But neither are hardly any people in the enhanced side of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Even look at the top guys. Unless you are the top guy or one of the top few guys with sponsorships, etc., you're not making that much money from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Let's jump onto part two.
Cool.
Go on then. Your question.
Right. So, give me a sec, mate. I just went off.
I've got one then. I've got one.
Oh,
Another one from Argon.
Loves the question.
This is a very strange one as well. Should an obese person be able to squat, or is the belly what prevents them? Alternatives.
Yeah, imagine you get a client side of like, yeah, you're a bit too fat, no squats for you, bro. You're just like, yeah, no squats.
I think
it's going to depend on the individual.
to the extent that they are.
Some people who are carrying that sheer amount of load through, let's say, adipose tissue and too much adipose tissue, you could argue that they're probably going to have some back issues, maybe knee issues, hip issues. It might not be too much of a comfortable position, but some might be absolutely sound and can go like proper deep in a squat. It's going to depend on the individual and how fat they are relatively. So ask them, assess, and maybe pick exercises that are slightly better suited, a leg press. But then you could argue, is a leg press, are they going to get maximal knee flexion because their stomach's going to be in the way?
The
because
same thing.
such a sheer amount of adipose tissue. There's negatives either way. So what we're going to say is, don't be fat, bro. Don't be obese.
I just don't think you should, if anything, you don't need to overanalyze that. Like, the most important thing is that they create some lifestyle changes, some better habits. They get moving, they start understanding nutrition and eating a little bit less, moving a bit more, you know, making better choices with food. Like, all of that is way more important than whether or not they can do a squat.
Yeah.
Or even their exercise selection in the gym.
Right. So we have been asked, both pick your client five-a-side teams. So 5 clients, mate, at your five-a-side. So who's in goal?
Are we doing it as if they're able to, like, as in, who do we think could be the best footballers, or just as in, like, who do we think, as in, are they actually good at football, or who do we think could be good at football?
Depends, mate. I'm going through the group chat, so I'm gonna go have a look at the names and see who strikes me as somebody who I think could kick ball quite well, and who could go.
I reckon Leo Woods has got a bit.
You reckon? So Leo would be in for you.
Niall has got a bit.
Okay.
I'm
having a look here. No.
I feel like as well, Matt, Butcher's wet dream, he just looks like he could play football, doesn't he?
Yeah, some people you can just tell. You're like, yeah, he looks like he could kick ball quite well. Some people don't, you know. I'm scrolling through. I'm having a look, and there's no names that I'm like, yeah, I reckon he could kick ball.
I don't want to leave people out. I feel like I've got quite a few. I've got Charlie. Charlie is a very, very strong United fan. He knows football. I've got Sam Holdsworth. He plays football. He's the Harry Maguire of his team. So he's not playing now. I might have Sam in. I think there's I've almost got too many. There's too many ballers on the team.
Yeah, I've not. I'll go Conran in goal because he's tall. That's I'm gonna go Harry Reynolds. You know, the lad from the Mecca.
Mate, you're just going for tall lads.
Yeah, so one big man at the top, one big man at the back. So
not going to do you any good in five-a-side, mate. You need low center of gravity. You need actual ballers.
No. And then I'm going for 3 like magicians. So I'm going to go Ethan Metcalf because he's smaller. He's not too tall. He's not really small, but he's
he's tiny.
Yeah, he's
remember that, Ethan.
Yeah, really small. I think Matthew would actually be good at football. You know, Matthew. I reckon he'd be all right. So I'm going to go with him in midfield as well. And then I'm going to go for. Who's the, I'm just going to go for pure pace and physicality. No, Zach Harrison from Probably a gym. He's my centre
Mate,
back.
your team
Literally.
is there's no chance. You
No, mate,
just
I might as
get
well.
ran
You know
off the
what? I might
park.
as well just put all his clients just sort by height.
We're not
Yeah.
allowed
Oh, I've
our.
got Stan Muds.
Are we not
Stan's
allowed
like 6 foot
ourselves in the
7
team?
or something.
Are we in
Yeah,
the
you
team?
want yourself, mate. What
Yeah.
player manager?
I'd be there. I'd
Well,
be just
you're
pulling the strings. I'd play at the back, but when it comes to five-a-side, if you play at the back, you're just in control of the whole game. So I'd play at the back.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'd put in goal. Have I got anyone really tall? I don't think I have.
Five-a-side, bro. You don't really, like, it's not that important.
If any of my clients, if you're good in goal, let me know, and I'll put you in.
Yeah.
I feel like Miles would be a good goalkeeper. I feel like he's got the hair for it. I feel like he'd have a.
He'd be far out of the way. Like a ball would come at him and he'd be like, oh, like he'd be scared of the ball hitting him.
I feel like he'd have a old school goalkeeper's tee on, like a goalkeeper's kit from like 1940. I feel like he's just got one of them somewhere. And with his mullet as well, I think he looked like the part in goal.
Okay.
I'm going to play at the back. I'm going to have Niall and Leo in the middle because I don't even know if Leo. I know he supports Blackburn. I spoke about Blackburn last week. Leo's going to be loving this.
And who
I have them in the middle. I don't know. I feel like up front, I want Butcher's wet dream.
Really?
I just feel like mate. You can imagine him just bagging for foot.
But just scoring goals.
You can, can't you?
Yeah, he does look like he looks like a footballer. Sack off bodybuilding, bro. Become a footballer.
And then on the bench, I'm going to have people that know football. So I'll have Charlie, I'll have Chris, I'll have Sam. I've got loads of people, to be fair. I'll have Will Razzo, big Sheffield United fan.
I've got Antoine, who's French. So I'm going to go. No, Antoine Ple. So I'm going to say he's going to channel up his inner Mbappe.
I've got Killian in my team, yeah.
Yeah,
Killian. Yeah, I've got him.
Yeah, exactly. So he's going to channel his inner Mbappe. Right, what sort of cardio do you do in bulk and cut periods, bro? So what's your bulking cardio like, bro? What's your cut? Yeah, nothing. So no movement.
I'm gonna have to sort these blinds out. You answer it.
Right. So CB yearly stays pretty consistent. I do cardio daily currently, which is literally 30 minutes a day. Heart rate at like 120, 130 beats per minute. When I diet, it stays the exact same. I literally use my grandma, rest in peace, her exercise bike that we bought for her, that I kind of like almost took when
stole it off her, and that's why she died.
Yeah, she died, and I was like, well, no one's going to use the exercise bike. She's not using it, so I might as well have it. So basically, yeah, I just kind of took it after she passed. So thanks, Grandma. So yeah, I just do cardio, and it will literally depend on duration. The intensity, I always keep relatively similar. I'm a little bit more conscious of it when I'm dieting because I almost think, well, I don't want to be kind of, as you get less, let's say, energetic, as you naturally get leaner, there is a likelihood that you probably going to put a little bit more less effort in. So I'm a little bit more conscious in a fat loss phase. And you become fitter as well.
It's harder to get.
So trying to keep my heart rate up. Where now, 100%. So yeah, and then duration gets manipulated based off the energy demands and energy balance of where I'm at. But it'll always be low intensity, steady state. I like I said, 120, 130 beats per minute, and that'll pretty much stay year round. And it'll be manipulated based off the phase. And Finn, I'm guessing, I know yours is similar. So you're telling me you don't do HIIT cardio when you diet, bro? Oh,
no,
God.
I have the recumbent bike at home, which is really nice. I do recommend the recumbent bike as well for people. This is from Argos. It was like 200 quid or something. And it's pretty good. I can just sit, I can listen to check-ins, make notes, do a bit of work, and it's done. Half an hour, easy job. And yeah, like we said, the time will change dependent on the phase. But that being said, like I'm doing half an hour, 6 days a week at the time being, and I just like that. I'd almost argue that's like a baseline. So it would generally work up or down from there. But I feel like throughout a prep, like it'll probably stay relatively similar. And if anything, it'll actually come down when recovery capabilities are lesser. Obviously, that depends on whether I'm behind or ahead or whatever. If I need to push it up, then I will do. But hopefully I've got enough tools through steps and through food to be able to keep cardio pretty consistent. And if anything, reduce it when I need to.
Yeah. And I'm enhanced, so I won't need to do anything. I'll just take more clean.
Yeah.
or a bit of
No.
DMP, all so on and so forth. I'll be fine. That's what it'll be. Do you want to go through some of yours, mate? I've done a few, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I've covered all the ones from last week.
Okay.
So from this week, sorry guys.
Oh, that's fine, mate. I have no issue at all. Fat loss stalls on very low food and high output. Why? No, WYD. What are you doing? Question mark.
What are you doing?
So, what are you doing?
Oh, so fat loss is stalling and they're on low input, high output.
Yes.
First of all, I'd determine what is low input, what is high output. It's dependent on the person. For some people, they might think they're on low input, but they're probably not on that low of an input. And obviously, if you're actually adhering, then you're not on low enough of an input or high enough of an output. First things to actually question is, are you actually adhering? Are you accurately tracking? Because people might be like, oh yeah, I'm on 2,000 calories, but then they're not accounting for this, this, and this, which actually means they're on 2,300. They're not including their sauces or drinks that they're having, things like that, milk in their coffees, sugar in their coffees, and then on top of that, they might not even be accounting for the expenditure side. They might be like, oh yeah, I'm on high output, but for them, high output might be I go on a half an hour walk a day, my steps are 8,000. That's not high output. We could add cardio, we could do more steps. If they are legitimately on, let's say, 25,000 steps a day, an hour of cardio a day, and on very low food, for let's say a average weight male under 2,000 calories as an average across the week, and a female just over 1,000, something like that, then again, we've got to assess, are you actually adhering? Because if you're on those targets, you're probably going to see fat loss for the wide sort of majority of people. And if you're not seeing fat loss, then we can look at potentially going into periods where we'll have diet breaks, or we'll incorporate refeeds, or we'll have actual specific phases where we don't focus on fat loss for now. And we'll think, right, realistically, you're not in the best spot to keep pushing for fat loss. So let's pull out of that. Let's have a few month period. It doesn't have to be like a 2-week diet break. You could have a 6-month period where it's like, right, we're going to maintain, we're going to actually reestablish maintenance or even a slight surplus, get you into a better position, both from an energy standpoint, psychological standpoint. If you feel like it's getting stale, you're struggling to actually push on further, create better habits. Because again, usually for these kind of individuals, their habits aren't great. So if they're saying, oh, I'm on high output and low input and I'm not losing weight, again, they're probably not actually doing it. Or if they are, they're not that consistent with it and their routine's not in place. Their training is probably not at a very high level. They're probably not that strong. So if you can improve all those things, improve their day-to-day habits, their routine, their training performance, their strength, all that kind of stuff, then getting them back into a deficit will be a lot easier. But that's not a fashionable kind of way. It's not like, look how inviting this is. You have to then explain to them, look, realistically, what we're going to have to do here is get you into a position where for a good few months, we're eating more food. We're really focusing on training. We're taking away from the focus of just fat loss. But for a lot of people, they won't do that. And they'll go, no, I want it now. And then they'll keep doing what they've always done, which is trying to push themselves unnecessarily hard. They do it for 5 days, can't do it at the weekend, so they overeat, and then they're just in that cycle again.
Mate, honestly, that's a fantastic answer. That's a really good answer. And I also think they're usually the people that say, oh, my metabolism dies, or oh, I've bottomed out. But I also, it's like, it's just you chatting shit in the nicest way possible. Like, you just chatting shit. And as we said as well, like, and as Finn said, like, when it comes to what's like, when people say low food, high output, how many times I've had it plenty, and someone said, mate, I'm eating 2,200 calories. And you're like, well, yeah, it gets to that point. It probably will get lower. But people place perceptions, or, oh, I'm doing 10K steps and I'm doing 45 minutes cardio. Okay, cool. You could do more.
That's it. You have to stop seeing it as the absolute value and instead look at it in terms of like, what do I actually need to do? Oh, right, I need to eat a little bit less because I'm not losing weight, or I need to move a little bit more. Like, there you go. Like that is how you have to see it. And again, you're going to have days that are a bit difficult. Yeah, of course you are. But you can't be going, oh my God, I'm doing so many steps. I'm doing so much cardio. I'm eating so little food. Like, if you keep telling yourself that, then you're going to keep feeling like that. Like, we'll have had times in prep and even little diets. Like, my food was really low in this little mini cut that I've just done, like really low on a rest day, but I was sound. I just got on with it. I didn't look at my food and go, oh my God, I've only got 25 carbs to play with. What the fuck am I going to do? I just had a plan in place where it was like, right, every meal is just trace carbs. That's sound. My expenditure is not that high. I do cardio in the morning, which I feel fine for because I've just had an 8-hour sleep. I go on a walk in the morning and the evening, which I feel fine for because I've had a good sleep. So I go on a walk and I feel like it's just part of my morning routine. In the evening, it's part of my routine before bed. Do some steps before I train, get your heart rate up. Like, it's just establishing that routine. But I could have easily gone, oh my God, I'm on this amount of food, or I've got to do this amount of steps. I can't do it. Or same with prep. Like, you had points where your cardio had to go quite high, where, you know, especially when, you know, you were pretty lean at that point as well. Like,
Yeah.
but
Like
it was what was needed.
if I was to like map it out, and bearing in mind I was on stage at like 210 pounds, which is not light for like a first time competitor. And if I was to say like what my rest days were fucking horrible. But like, and especially when I was that lean doing that, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't do it. It was like, okay, cool, I've still got a bit of body fat to pull off. Part of it.
It's just how the mindset you have to have.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right, your one, mate.
Dara Hamill has asked, when you have more work to do after a training session, any tips on how to refocus? It's quite a good question, to be fair.
Yeah, this is a good question. Usually trying to chill out immediately, like some ashwagandha potentially, trying to get yourself into a zone where you're going to be in less of an aroused state that we can usually have post-training. I also think as well, like usually your mind's going to be tired and battered anyway. I think as well, optimization of routine. Like me and Finn will get all our work done. Like when it comes to check-ins, usually in the morning, I might have an application to do or maybe a starter to do after I train, but I'm not going to have like much more than just WhatsApps and like not the bare minimum of work, but I will move my work around depending on when I train, and likewise try and get it done earlier because I'm not as productive. I ramble on, I'm not as concise. If we were to do this podcast after we train, I can guarantee that you'd almost notice there'd probably be more murmuring, maybe not as, we're not going to be as on it. We'd probably notice it because our training sessions are so demanding. So if you can, try and optimize it so you train, let's say, later on. And likewise, if you can't and you can't optimize that, let's say you've got to train in the mornings and then go and work, you've almost kind of got to understand that's part of the process, and trying to chill out, get yourself into that routine, and kind of, in a sense, you'll adapt to it and it will become normalized. But we're quite lucky that we can move our work around. But yeah, it's going to be very person dependent, and it's going to be something that I think is probably something that not many people speak about, if I'm honest. So yeah, what do you reckon, Finn?
That's spot on. Like, in terms of time management, if you can, try not to put too much demanding work in at the end of the day. Like Reece said, I'll have WhatsApps that I get back to in the evening, maybe a little bit of work. Like if someone sent a check-in in late or something like that, it's one check-in that you've got to do, or a mini update for someone, or, you know, an application, etc. Those kind of things. But also like just little things like, you know, once you've trained and had your post-workout meal, like if you've then got, let's say, however many hours left. For us, we don't have many hours left in the day at that point. But let's say you have a shower, get changed. So you're in different clothes. You're not in your training clothes. You've had a shower. You've sort of freshened up a little bit. And you can all, even just that alone can be like, oh, right, cool. Like a switch of focus.
Yeah, I go for a walk on Saturdays.
Yeah, go on a walk, like little things like that. Like on a Saturday, because we train a bit earlier, we usually have a bit more work in the evening. So like I'll get back on a Saturday and I'll eat, and then I'll go straight in the shower. So it's like I'll get home, eat, shower, and then, right, I'm out of training mode now. Even though, yeah, I'm a bit more tired than I usually would be. Of course I am. But I'm out of that training mode now. So I get up here, get on the laptop and crack on. Whereas if I just sort of stayed in my training clothes and waited a bit for my post-workout and then chilled out a bit and sat and watched TV, and like, it's like you're going to be just sat doing nothing. So it's like you just got to try and flick that switch. But it is more difficult, hence why, you know, we do place our sort of routine like we do.
Yeah, 100%. Right, mate. If you have to commit one crime in order to make that crime never committed again, what are you saying?
What? So nobody else could ever commit the same crime?
If I'm honest, if I was to say what I'd actually want to say, I'd be in big trouble. Yeah, I'm not going to mention. I can't say it on the podcast. I would get cancelled. There would be a few too many things that I could say. You know what? I'm going to take one for the team. This is something that I might enjoy. No one else is. No one else has to do it, but I can't say it, unfortunately. So yeah, other than that, Finn, what's one crime you have to commit? Well, like rob a bank. Oh no, I'm now a billionaire. Oh
yeah,
God, no one.
Do you get the consequences from it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not too sure. That's just, you have to commit a crime, and then no one else can ever make that crime.
Yeah, but I don't care if people rob a bank.
Yeah, no, I can care. Like, what's a crime that's like, oh, I hope nobody does that. You know.
I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd do a terrorist attack, but on somewhere where there's no one there.
Okay, so you don't want to kill anyone, pussy.
No.
You got to take.
That's the whole point. We're trying to take one for the team so that it doesn't.
What if you get arrested for having a terrorist attack, and then you're like, but you didn't even take anybody out?
I just explain. It's all right, mate. Someone asked us on the podcast, and this is what it is.
Okay, so what would the terrorist attack be? Would you just blow someone up?
Bombing, yeah, some kind of bombing.
The film will bomb somewhere.
A bomb somewhere where nobody lives, or it's like a derelict area. I'll bomb it, and then I'll be like, right, there you go. That's my crime. No more bombings.
No more bombings. Fair enough. Well, I think like maybe like an acid attack's probably worse because that's like personal. But you have to acid attack somebody. Like, like spray them and go, got you. Your face.
You could do it and accidentally miss them and go, there you go.
No, nobody can. Yeah, I don't really know. It's a bit of a weird question. There probably would be a good reply, good answer if we were to like, rack our brains for that. So yeah, right. I've got a few more. Have you got a few more? 5 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Josh C. Fit, do you think online coaches should have the experience of being in-person PTs first?
We've answered this before, and I think there's definitely going to be benefits. There's pros and cons. I actually think that there probably should be some transition, but I've never PT'd. I've got a PT call. I've never used it. It's something that like I would look at and I'd be thinking, it's not going to correlate directly. But as we've said before, like your level of understanding when it came to, let's say, maybe explaining to an absolute beginner, okay, this is how you should hip hinge, or this is what you should think because you've worked with individuals hands-on is probably actually quite beneficial. But then at the same time, you're right now not getting beginners who are coming into the gym who have never hip hinged before, but that still could apply. So I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah, I think it's more so from, like you say, just from like an ability to communicate. I think that's the most important thing. Also, it depends on the person. Like, let's say you're quite a shy person, then it definitely help going into PTing first because you have to learn to communicate with people. Like, I had clients at points that it was like really hard to get a conversation out of people. Like, and you almost have to learn different ways and find out what they want to, what they enjoy and what they want to talk about. Because like personal training is personal. That's what it's in the name. Yeah. You're not just going, right, here's your program, get after it, and I'll just stand and count your reps. Like, you have to be quite personable. You have to understand that person. You have to understand their goals. You have to understand what sort of motivates them, what makes them tick a little bit more. And also just how to enjoy the sessions. Because otherwise you're going to be stood there bored all day just telling people what to do. Like, I used to try and enjoy the sessions and have a laugh with them as well, because then they're only going to want to come back as well. You're not just there to tell them do this, do that. I'm going to fucking stand there with my arms folded. So that's a big part of it, is like learning how to communicate. And I think that helped me. I've always been like pretty confident anyway, but that helped me a lot in terms of, because when you're at school and that, you obviously you find your group of people. And obviously it's easy to communicate because you're mates with the lads that play football. So you communicate about football, or you're mates with the people that do drama and you like drama, whatever it is. When you go into the real world, not everybody likes the same thing. So you have to find different ways to communicate. And even like not everybody's at the same level. So like you say, I had people who couldn't lunge. They couldn't do a bodyweight squat, not because of an injury or anything like that. They just didn't actually know how to do it. So I was like racking my brain, like, how?
I thought.
Huh?
I thought it was because they're obese. Nobody obese can do it.
Yeah, because they're obese.
So
no, because like they've never done any form of exercise. Like as a kid, they didn't do PE. They hated it, so they didn't go to PE. Or people again. We always say it, like people at school just grow up to be adults. Yeah, we all had those kids at school that hated PE. Yeah. That's just not what they like doing. Now they might grow up and be a bit older and their doctors told them that they need to go to the gym and do this, or they want to improve how they look and feel happy about how they look and stuff. So they get a personal trainer. They don't know how to do basic movements. So those kind of things do definitely help. Does that mean that makes me a drastically better online coach? No, but I think it does make you understand people more, at least when you're starting, because over time you get to the same point anyway. But it definitely does help, because you get to a point where you go, for example, like you might have, when you're getting more so beginners, when you first start and you program some certain movements and they're like, I don't know how to do it. And you're like, what? It's a fucking lunge. Just lunge. Like, you can tell them all the cues, but it's just a lunge. Like some people still just can't do it and they can't cue it and they're really off balance and stuff. So, but even then, you're not an idiot. You just go, right, well, let's switch this out because it's really not working. So yeah, I guess there's pros and there's pros. There's not really cons to not doing it, but you don't have to. It's not essential.
Yeah. Well, mate, I've got another one from a guy called Sam. He's asked, hello, mate. Question for the podcast. He sent it in the DMs. It was a long one. Go listen to podcast tomorrow night if it's out. As a long car journey I have planned. Well, unfortunately, Sam, it's not the podcast isn't out. So hopefully your long car journey was fine. Maybe listen to some of the old podcasts. Basically, I won the WFPG Bench Press World Championships in July. So congratulations on that. He said 6 months of very strict hard training came to an end. After, I wanted to health effects, which hasn't helped, but I want to get back into a training routine, possibly away from powerlifting for a while. But since the training camp for the comp, it's like, because I have no end goal, I'm struggling to never normally do. I don't know if it's mental or physical barrier, but looking to ways to overcome this. So firstly, mate, there was a few grammatical errors, but regardless, he's having that kind of post-comp, post-show, in a sense, post-prep, whatever you want to specify it in, and he's not having that routine and structure. Finn, what would you recommend for our good friend Sam?
So he's basically just feeling a bit lost after it, yeah?
Yeah.
As simple as it sounds, you need to establish a new routine. Like, obviously, it's not going to be the same routine. It's not going to be quite as strict, but there still needs to be some form of routine. You obviously not going to be doing maybe the same. It's different to what we would class, like, let's say if we were to relate it to a prep, but even if we don't, like, you're not going to be doing the exact same training regime. You're not going to be eating quite as much food. Yeah, like all these kind of things. But that doesn't mean that you stop eating food. It doesn't mean that you stop training. You still have to do the basics to an extent.
I find this annoying when somebody says like they had so much time off. Like, you won in July, like it's November, bro. Like, not in the harsh way, like saying what have you been doing, but there should be a period of time maybe just to chill out, and I can completely understand that. But if you just fall off completely and you don't do anything, of course you're going to be out of routine. You'll be out of sync.
Of course,
you're
you're going to
feel
lost. Yeah.
Yeah, you've done nothing. Like, you've been on it for 6 months. You've won something. You've had the high of winning. It's now been what, 4 months, 5 months potentially. You know, and it's like you might not have even done that much.
I think as well, like,
situation.
I think that high of winning, and even if you didn't win, but even just the high of competing, the high of that having that goal, afterwards you're always going to feel like, oh, like what's next? So you got to find something that's next. Like, again, that's one thing that we speak about with bodybuilding is like that the goal isn't just to compete. The goal is to keep improving and getting bigger and improving your weaker areas. Like, so when you step off stage, it's not like, oh, what now? It's like, all right, well, now I've competed, I can see that here's still weak, here needs to be better. So for him, I guess you could relate it to, right, well, what are you going to just keep doing bench, or have you got other goals? Do you want to get better at your squat or your deadlift? Like, have a different focus, have a new goal. Don't just be like, oh, well, I've done that now that's completed. It's not completed. I guarantee you could do better. It's not as if your bench is completed now. Could you get a better bench? Yeah, probably. If not, definitely, with more time and more training. It's like, it's not as if, and it's just how a lot of people think. They do a certain sort of competition, or they have a certain goal that they want to achieve. Same with fat loss. I want to lose 20 pounds or whatever it may be. They get to that point and they just go, oh, I've done now. And they just stop and revert back to their old habits. It's like, you have to keep doing the same thing. Not necessarily that you're going to keep losing fat. You might have achieved your fat loss goal, or you might have achieved your goal of bench or whatever it may be. You don't just then stop. You have to find a new goal or maintain those same basic habits and principles and just channel them in a different direction, basically.
Yeah, because we've had it, like, obviously it is different, but we've had it with clients. We've had it like through people that we know. They'll compete, and then afterwards it's like almost a downwards like lull period, which is like, it's quite normal. But you need to almost put those mechanisms in place prior, so right, this is the next goal. This is what I'm working towards. And like, I can honestly say that I had absolutely zero post-show struggle, like, because I was already structured and I was like, right, this doesn't slip. And it was like, I was so looking forward throughout the whole prep of actually getting into a point where I can enjoy
if anything, you feel like a boost. You feel like a boost of motivation post-show, because you're like, right, I can be growing again.
But unfortunately, people fall off completely. They don't do their cardio. They then don't do their steps. They feel really unproductive. They end up then looking at themselves, and their internal gratification of looking better is starting to wane because they're getting softer. And it's like, oh God, everything's more negative. And in reality, they feel so much worse for it. And then they end up taking massive steps backwards. And it is unfortunate. Human psychology.
The goal should always be on progression in one way or another. Even in this scenario, like, doesn't have to be in bench, could be in anything, but the goal shouldn't be the end goal, because there is no end goal. I mean, it's like, once you've got to that, it's not the end, because you're not done. You need to have some sort of focus on progression at all times. Same with business, same with anything. Like, because otherwise you just feel like, what the fuck am I doing then? If I'm not moving forwards in one way or another, like what is it all for? And that's when you're like, fucking hell, you start to spiral and feel worse. And then, you know, you're feeling sorry for yourself. So you're not doing what you should be doing, and it just gets worse and worse. So you got to partly just snap out of it and be like, right, fucking come on now, which is a massive part of it, which a lot of people don't say. They go, oh, just try this, try that. A lot of it is just, you need to sort of snap out of it and grab it and go, right, I need to sort this out. I need to get on top of these things, like, because we're all going to have like times like that. Everybody has times where you feel a bit down, or again, like post show is a perfect example, or post, you know, a certain goal or a certain phase. You're going to have times where you just feel a bit like meh, and you feel shit and you feel sorry for yourself. But you can't let that last forever. What you're going to do is just let that carry on, or you're going to actually sort it and, you know, put the things in place to get out of that kind of lull that you feel.
Yeah, good one, mate. Good one. Right, do you want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Right, that was a good podcast. Hope everyone's enjoyed. We need to stop getting these fucking natty men's physique guys on. We do it better with just me and you.
Just with us.
Just better. No more guests. No more guests. Josh, who's coming on next week? Nah, we've sacked you off, bro. We're not getting on. So to be fair, he's not men's physique, but he is natty. It's all these natties, mate. We've got to get.
He's not going to be natty for long, I don't think.
Yeah, is he not?
I have to ask him. Yeah.
Yeah, so fair enough. Right, that'll be something for yeah. I think we've got Josh Bogdani on the podcast next week. The teen champ, pretty much just wiped up this year and just cleaned up. So yeah, that'll be good. But yeah, hopefully everyone's enjoyed. Thanks as always. Thanks for story tags. Catch you guys next week. See you later.